Hello again, students. This is a video on qualitative data analysis. Again, coming from the approach of the research onion um, and what we have gone through so far. We have seen research methods. So the qualitative data analysis follows through the same theme as the quantitative data analysis. Once you have applied your research method, you've collected your data, now what do you do with it? Now, this video is handling qualitative data. Now, as we all know, qualitative data is non-numerical data. So this would be somebody's story, a narration from somebody, pictures taken, observations made by the researcher and other participants. So getting this data and analyzing it, how would we analyze that kind of data? So this video is going to go through the processes one goes through of classifying and categorizing and then this data and then making meaning out of it. So what is qualitative data analysis? This is the process where we are trying to explain, understand, or interpret what participants of a particular research said. So we are trying to explain, understand, and interpret it. Understand or interpret it. So here in qualitative data analysis, we break down the data into smaller units. And then we determine their importance or putting them into specific units. How would we do that? So imagine you interviewed several people. You had a focus group discussion. You recorded people's discussions. So you print it out onto a paper. You go ahead, type it out. That is transcribing. Type it out. And then after typing it out, print it out. So after you print it out, you read through and then you'd say, when this person was saying this falls into this, I would code this as this. Maybe you'd classify what people said. So if people, let's say you were interviewing people on perceptions on e-learning or open source e-learning systems, there would be something that you'd categorize into usability. Another thing would be maybe on access. And the other thing would be maybe it would focus on need, ease of use, things like that. From what people said, you'd categorize what, you put it into smaller units. So it's not just what people said, but where would it fall? What is the theme that this thing falls under? So this slide basically is talking about how you would begin to transcribe the data that you have picked up on. One of the things we try to avoid, some of the challenges that one may pick up on, as we are carrying out analysis in qualitative research, we already begin to see themes develop as we collect our data. It's important in those times to write those things down. Important that you begin to write all those things down as you carry out your research. When you go home, because qualitative research takes a bit of time, it's unlike quantitative research which you may collect in one day or something. Qualitative data research takes a little bit of time. You can begin to write the themes that develop. You begin to write them down, so that when you eventually come at the end of your research, you're able to relate those themes that you saw, things that you perceived, themes that were developing, categories and things that were developing. You begin to immediately write them out. So this should help with taking care of premature conclusions or things like that. So this is the coding. This is what begins the coding process. When you begin to reduce that data, because qualitative data is really humongous. So, but if you begin to see certain patterns coming out, that's what it means to code, to code your research. So the coding is, as like I said, when you've your transcribed data, what you've typed out, you begin to mark out, underline what people said, and say, then you mark it and say this, what category, what theme has developed. You find this participant you interviewed mentioned it, another participant had a perception on that same thing. So that becomes a theme, and then you code that, you write it out. Yeah. So these coded speeches begin to have meanings or themes or categories. The coded speeches begin to have themes or categories that we underline. So now let me just, if I can show this in a picture, the identified themes, because I can keep talking about it and then we don't see. Here we have an example. Why do students have problems with critical thinking? One may, as a person interviewed, they would say major themes were reading challenges, minor themes were time constraints. Why are what are some of the challenges that your students face? So you find most teachers were talking about reading challenges, or maybe someone will say, oh, people don't really like reading. You give somebody something, they take time. So other times, some people have not developed good reading skills. Another person says that. Now, as you read that, the researcher says this is a reading challenge. Then there's the issue of time constraints. A few minor things may be time constraints. So those interviews, what the people said was really a lot, but the researcher decided to categorize this as reading challenges or code it as reading challenge. Then time constraints, need for learning experience, and so on and so forth. So now this is a table of coded responses where the teacher says reading challenges, need authentic learning experience, need to read newspapers. So these were several teachers with a lot said, but the researcher, from what they said, categorized them. Then they also have done observations with the students unwilling to work. Maybe they saw there are people unwilling to work in group, laziness and fatigue, so on and so forth. These are codes that have been developed. And from these codes, themes and categories can also be developed. So the themes can be explained in a narrative format and can be supported with quotes from participants here and there. So here's an example of a narrative. Why do students have problems with reading? And then a respondent says, reading challenges. When asked what are the challenges the students face in critical thinking, the teachers interviewed felt that students had. So this is the narrative format that is following a theme, where the researcher is now explaining that this is what the general feeling of students. And then they go ahead and use quotes, direct quotes. He said, students don't read on their own, hence they cannot think critically. Another person said their reading levels. So these quotes support the narrative of the theme that came out of reading challenges. Here I want to show you how I coded my own research using Atlas TI. So Atlas TI is to quantitative research, what we have as SPSS. So Atlas TI helps with uh, coding and creating of themes for in qualitative research. So here um, here I had a theme for information communication needs for end users, and here the things that the categories that came out was from interviews, that there was a need for adherence to treatment reminders. Then we have need for booking and inquiry services, the need for health and information systems. Now, here, this theme, rather, these were codes that I developed from interviews, what people were saying. Someone could have said that, you go to the health facility, there's a long line, and so on and so forth. Then another person said the same thing. So I said, there's a need for booking services so that somebody doesn't have to wait for a long time when they get to these public health facilities. And then the healthcare workers would have said, you give somebody drugs, they don't take the drugs, that means there's a need for treatment and adherence reminders. So these were coded things. Then from there, I related them to inaccessible healthcare services, because these were challenges that I saw. So from these, you see, from this is a typical qualitative data analysis. That one develops using Atlas TI. So simply put, that is qualitative analysis, and how one can decide to report it back in their writing for as they are carrying out data analysis. So we can have some more questions on the discussion forum. Thank you.